Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Unger. I'm the Artistic Director at Skylight Music Theater. And on behalf of Skylight, I wish you good health, and we hope you are staying safe and sound during this challenging time. Thank you for joining us tonight as we do our best to stay connected with our Skylight family. We long to be truly together with all of you in our beloved theaters in the historic Third Ward. But until that is safe for artists and audiences alike, we are here together virtually. It's the next best thing. Our hearts go out to all those who have been affected by the coronavirus, and I'd like to make special mention of a great loss to the musical theater community, Nick Cordero, who lost his 91-day battle with COVID over the weekend. Our deepest condolences to his family, friends, and fans. Tonight, we are thrilled to start a new initiative called Artists in Action. This concept came to us by way of one of our favorite music directors, an all-around fabulous person, Christie Chiles Twillie. This series is intended to explore BIPOC artists and explore how and where their arts and social activism intersect. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Christie Chiles Twillie. Hey there, Christie.
Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Good, wonderful to see you. You look fabulous.
Oh, thank you so much.
So thank you for suggesting and loaning us this concept. It's a wonderful initiative that we are so thrilled to support. Love to hear from you a little bit more about your inspiration for Artists in Action.
Well, just living in this COVID world and with all of us being in isolation and experiencing what's happening in so many communities, everything from the unfortunate loss of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and, the list goes on to us just wanting, as artists, wanting to reach out and do something. All of us have been talking behind the scenes and saying, what is it that we need to do to really make people more conscious of what's happening, to jump in there and put hands on the people who need us the most to work through these issues, because we really need our allies to come together with us. And so I thought, there are so many artists coming up with ideas, be it new plays, poetry, new films, to also just being involved with social justice organizations, until it just made sense that we be in a forum together to discuss these issues and to say what we're doing, how to help, and to point people in the right direction. So I really hope audiences love these series of conversations that we have. It's, of course, going to feature BIPOC artists, so Black, Indigenous, people of color that are artists and creatives. And I'm sure that there'll be a wealth of information to offer to the community that inspires and hopefully helps us to work through what this nation is going through right now.
Well, thank you. We're thrilled to host it. And we have three fabulous guests. I'd love you to introduce them if you don't mind.
Absolutely. I am so excited about these three. I have to say that they're quite definitely favorites of mine. The first is the wonderful Sheri Pannell, director, educator, playwright, who I worked on The Gospel of Colonus with at Skylight Music Theater. She was the director for that fabulous production. Welcome, Miss Sheri, to the conversation.
Thank you, Christy. I'm glad to be here.
And then we also have next Miss Malkia Stampley. And Malkia is a fabulous actor, both on stage and film. She's also got a gorgeous voice for voiceovers. You're going to hear her in our new film that's coming out in a few days. So Miss Malkia and I met by working on Five Guys Named Mo. I was so blessed to have her ask me to come on board as music director. So please welcome Malkia Stampley.
Hey, hey Sheri.
Hey. And then to her right, we have Broadway star, off-Broadway star, film and television actor, Chiké Johnson. So I'm so glad to have Team Stampley Johnson here with Sheri and I. Are you guys excited to talk about this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. And I mean, I love everybody on the screen. And
yes.
And I get to call you guys friends and colleagues and all of that. So anytime we can have a conversation, I'm always there for it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, we are a family.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We are definitely family, and we're definitely adopting Michael Unger.
Can I be a cousin or something?
You can definitely be a cousin. You can
Thank you.
definitely make the Kool-Aid at the picnic.
appreciate
You're entitled to do that. But also, we need to mention that Michael is also deeply involved in social justice too. I mean, we got to give major finger snaps to all that he's doing in Newtown and with Parkview and the films that he's made. So thank you, Michael, for allowing us to have these conversations.
I think it's
Skylight.
It's an honor and a pleasure and a duty, I think, to use our art where we can to improve the world.
Yes.
So our director of marketing, Susan Hyman, had a wonderful idea in kicking off this series to ask each of the artists something that inspired them as a young person, that helped them understand how the arts and activism or social activism intersected. So I love that idea. We sent the question to everyone, and everyone had a great response, great answer. Sheri, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you as a young artist?
Yes, one of my earliest experiences was actually my first professional production, which was the bicentennial production of Showboat for the Milwaukee County, which took place in the Blacks Pavilion, which is called the Temple of Music at Washington Park. And I was 16 and hired to be in the chorus. And our first music rehearsal with the conductor, John Anello, was present. We received our scores, and as we were reading through them and we got to the chorus, and it's here, well, we all work on the Mississippi, but the first words which were printed in the score were "Negras all work on the Mississippi." That had been stricken from, the score, and in its place was "Colored folk work on the Mississippi." Well, that wasn't going to work either. So my fellow choristers, and they were all adults, along with our chorus master, who was Ella J. Washington. She was the choral conductor. She prepared all of us for Showboat. And after, I'll just say, a very impassioned discussion, we settled upon "Here we all work on the Mississippi." Here we all work on the Mississippi. That was the first time I'll say, received a American history lesson through musical theater, number one, and also saw the power of words through this sort of music, through musical theater, and the power of speaking up and coming together as a group. There was complete unity and agreement that the language needed to be changed. And we had the support of Maestro John Anello in this process. So I was grateful for that. The other thing is I had an opportunity to study violin as a young girl through Milwaukee Public Schools. There were Saturday morning classes, and you could study any lesson, any instrument you wanted for listening to this for $10 a semester. And you even got the instrument. Yes, you even received your instrument. And so, yeah, there I am. I'm studying the violin. And along with this, there was an opportunity to go to the Milwaukee Symphony and see a concert. And as I was sitting there and the musicians took their places, I saw this beautiful woman with an afro bringing her string bass violin onto the stage. And at the time, Kenneth Skimmerhorn was the conductor, and he was very dramatic in his conducting, but I didn't watch him. I watched Laura for the rest of the concert, and she was so expressive. She was different in her expressing of the music on stage from anyone else that was there. And it wasn't, just because she had that chocolate skin, but it was her passion for the music and storytelling through the music. So she was alone, the only one, but her courageousness and whatever it took for her to get there. Now I have to tell you, she and I are dear friends now. We're friends.
Oh.
But during that time as a little girl, she was like a star, a shining star on that stage for me.
That's wonderful. I'm going to show a clip of Showboat that inspired you. So thanks for that. I'm going to
I have to tell you one more thing.
Okay.
Doherty was Miss Julie,
Oh.
and none other than Miss Armelia McQueen was our queenie for that production. And that was just before she went into rehearsal for the Fats Waller review.
Oh.
Ain't Misbehaving.
Fantastic. Next, I want to go to Malkia's inspiration. I'm going to show the clip first, and then you can talk about it after.
Child, when do you think is the time to love somebody the most? When they done good and made things easy for everybody? Well, that ain't the time at all. It's when he's at his lowest and can't believe in himself 'cause the world done whipped him so. When you starts to measure somebody. Measure 'em right, child. Measure 'em right. Make sure you done taken into account what hills and valleys he done come through before he gets to wherever he is.
That's an acting class right there, folks. So Malkia, you want to talk about that clip a little bit?
So that is Mama or Lena Younger, the role of Lena Younger played by Esther Roll in a TV production in the 80s, I believe. I'm not exactly sure the day, of Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. And I grew up, I was mesmerized by Danny Glover, who played Walter Lee, and the rest of the cast. And that production is not a well-known production. People know of Sidney Poitier or Sean Puffy Combs. And I felt but somehow, I don't know, maybe I was one of the few watching that night, but it struck me. And it was the first time that I felt that I saw, being a young girl, watching a story that was about people that looked like me. I saw myself in Benita, and then as I got older, I was able to play her. But to see a character talk about the things that I saw growing up in church, or growing up watching my parents talk with other community leaders or other people in the inner city, where I'm from in Milwaukee, and talking about meeting people where they are, or acknowledging that there are some large disparities, there are gaps when it comes to economics, when it comes to access, when it comes to education or jobs. All of those things I've heard about as a kid, but to see that through theater was life changing. And I grew up, before then, my mom loves musicals. So, we watched a lot of Shirley Temple. We watched a lot of music, Bye Bye Birdie, or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. We watched a lot of that. But this just, it made me realize, one, wow, I could do that. And two, this is important because this is about my community.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Christie's next. All right. Here's the little clip for Christie.
I spoke with a minister yesterday. He said he would marry us.
This here's a private toll road. Ain't it, fellas?
I've used this road several times, and I've never had to pay a toll.
I'm afraid you can't file a complaint against a volunteer fireman.
Why not?
Because they're not an employee of the city. We have no jurisdiction over them.
Mr. President! You gotta help
The woman who bore my child.
She believed in justice. She died begging for it.
You're wrong, Mr. Walker. You are wrong to the depths of your soul. Because vengeance does nothing but perpetuate more vengeance and on and on.
But you speak like an angel, Mr. Washington. It's too bad we're living on the earth.
So, Christie, tell us about that point of inspiration for you.
Oh my gosh, Ragtime. When that movie came out, I was probably 9 or 10 years old. And my family always loved going to the movies. And my dad in particular loved taking us to movies that were often surprises and had another purpose for teaching us some lesson about life, about growing up, about our communities. And I remember going into this movie and hearing all this great ragtime music. I was playing piano very well by that point and thinking, oh, this movie is going to be so cool because I love Scott Joplin's music and there were going to be rags. And then suddenly I was just overrun by this story of just prejudice. But within that story, there were all of these incredible actors, all these incredible Black actors, plus Debbie Allen is in it playing Sarah, and I was a dancer, so I was mesmerized by the fact that I got to see her act only and not dance like I had seen in television shows with her, like in Fame. But just, I had never been in a situation where a story about racism in the U.S. was told with that much perspective and that much truth and that much poignancy. And so I just remember putting my feet up in the chair in the movie theater and sitting back with wide eyes and at times tearful eyes watching all of this unfold. And I began to wonder how could these people even come together to do this story? I mean, there are so many different perspectives, and there's love in this story, and there's hatred in this story. And so, that was a real awakening for me because I grew up in a family that was very social and very active in the arts and all of that. But to see people clashing and to see this much prejudice and injustice and situations where someone's losing the love of their life and they're taking extreme chances to get back at the people that took her away, I tell you, it kind of left me speechless. And my family, we had a long conversation after that. And when my grandfather told me that when he was a kid that he had a Model T Ford, then that just even rang home even more because, of course, that's the car that Cole House is driving in the movie. That sets everything off.
Wow.
So
also fabulous musical by Ahrens and Flaherty. Yep.
Yes, that too.
I'm going to go to mine next. I'm going to save Chiké's for last because we have a little common bond there. So I was trying to think back about sort of an early memory where the arts to me could mean something more than entertainment. And my parents were very, very culturally active, and they took us to symphony and ballet and musicals and plays. And we lived, you could hear the Ravinia Festival from our backyard. We were that close to Ravinia, which was kind of spectacular. And I took violin lessons from the Joe Golan, who was the principal second violinist at the CSO. Anyway, but we go to see the Joffrey every summer in the pavilion. And there was this one piece called The Green Table that I just, as a kid, I didn't know what it was about or what it meant, but I knew that it was about more than just dancers on a stage and seeing entertainment. Here's a clip of it. And that ballet has always stuck with me. And I realized that even as a little boy, I didn't really understand exactly what it was about, but I knew it was something more important or larger than what was on that stage. And I actually saw Christian Holder dance the role of Death, and it's a ballet. Now I know it's a ballet about the futility of war and the bureaucrats who make it happen. So there. Okay, Chiké, I'm going to play this clip of one of yours and my favorite movies. Here we go.
Are you 110 years old?
So they tell me.
How far back can you remember?
How far back you want to go? How far? You want me to go back as far as I can go? That's even further than when the freedom come. That thing ain't gonna bite me, is it?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, it's just a tape.
Oh, my. Well, where to start, Lena?
Mom, what happened?
What happened where? Eat your food.
This. What happened?
They was here looking for you tonight, Ned. They're fixing to kill you. They will if you don't leave this place.
I can't, Mama. You know that.
You got to.
I can't leave these people. They haven't got anybody else who will fight for them except the committee.
Ned, you ain't worth nothing to nobody dead. You pack your things now. Take the road to New Orleans and take a boat leaving for Kansas.
You come with me then.
No, I can't, Ned. I'm tired here.
You're coming with me, Mama. They'll hurt you again.
They can't do me nothing, Ned. I don't have what you have. I don't have the urge. I know the land, but you know the peoples. Go to them, Ned. Talk to them. Show them.
You have to come with me.
Oh. It's not my time.
Oh, what a performance, Cicely Tyson. Chiké, talk to us about that beautiful film.
Well, I came to theater fairly late. I guess it wasn't something that I had dreamed about doing as a child or a young man coming up through high school, middle school, high school. I was basically a jock, and then I joined the Marine Corps, and it was because of when I coming back out of the Marine Corps, because I wanted to go back in as an officer, and taking an elective, Introduction to Actor's Art, that I actually got involved in the arts. But when you asked me the question about what inspired me, that is my first, that is like, if I reach way back, that is a memory that sticks out pretty vividly in my head. The strength of Cicely Tyson, who reminded me of my mom, and the strength of this Black woman who was a slave lived through, the end of slavery, lived through her son being killed, and then at the ripe old age or young age of 100 and something, is still fighting for people. I mean, standing up for her people and taking the chance to drink at an all-white fountain. It stuck with me that the strength that I have is fed through Black women in my life, Black men as well, but specifically Black women, because like I said, I saw my mom in Cicely Tyson, and that strength has always flowed through me. I'm an only child, and I'm one of those cats that is just kind of like, I can do it on my own. And I think for me, the strength and the awareness of what it's like to be a Black American, when I think about the origins, that's where that's as far back as I go with an image of somebody saying, this is, you don't have to lay down and take it. You can move forward. You can fight the power, so to speak. And you don't have to be scared, and you could do it on your own. It just takes one person. It takes one person to start a movement, and people will join.
That's fantastic, Chiké. So that was the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, starring Cicely Tyson, TV movie. She won, I think, 2 Emmys for it: Best Actress in a Movie, and then sort of Best Actress overall. Anyway, do yourself a favor. It's on YouTube, totally free. Just grab it. It's up there on a couple different sites, but it is a spectacular film, and her performance is just one of the all-time great performances ever.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, Christie, you had some great questions to chat about with these fine folks. I'd love to turn over to you for a little bit.
Sure. And Chiké, I just want you to know that, like, for most of my childhood, I heard about this movie. It's my dad's, like, one of his favorite movies.
Oh, really?
And I myself have never seen it. So when you mentioned it, I was like, okay, now I got to watch it. For sure. But yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So I want to talk about all of your involvement in social justice and social justice issues, and how important it's been for you to be involved and to have a voice that you're sharing with the community and the world. I know that all of us are attending lots of different events, from the Black Broadway events to smaller community events, and I know that you're doing a lot in Milwaukee. So my first question for you, and I'll pose this to Sheri first, was your family involved in social justice, and did that somehow form your interest in being involved in it too?
Absolutely. I'm in a family where my siblings are 16, 18, and 20 years older than I. But so they were young adults and active in the civil rights movement. They were a member of the NAACP youth organization, which met in the annex of the church that I attend, in our first building that we worshiped in. My mother was a lifetime member of the NAACP. I had a brother-in-law who was the president of the Urban League chapter in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I've grown up wanting to be involved in the movement, but I found through the arts was really the best way for me to express my activism, through acting, through writing, through the storytelling, and in making sure that when I have an opportunity to sit at the table and to make casting decisions, that I get as many people of color and local, my African-American, members of my African-American family who bring all this talent, to be able to make those decisions and to advocate for them.
Mm-hmm. Chiké, how about you? Was your family involved in social justice?
Well, my mom now, and for a long time is involved with voter rights, and so she's well known in Milwaukee as the person to go to when you need the information and making sure people get out there and vote. My dad is in Nigeria. He was born and raised in Washington, D.C., but moved to Nigeria. He is known as the godfather, if I am right, of basketball in Nigeria. He has, he's the reason, one of the reasons Akeem Olajuwon played for the Houston Rockets. He helped the general manager of the Toronto Raptors is here partly because of my dad. So yes, they have had some sort of hand in the pot, if you will, of social justice.
Malkia.
Yeah, similar to everyone. The short answer is yeah. I think about what is social justice, and are you really fighting for social justice if you aren't in a courtroom or marching on the Capitol, things of that nature. And I didn't see my parents doing that necessarily, but my dad, for instance, he's a pastor, and he's a pastor with Church of God in Christ, and it's a Pentecostal the church, and very at least back in the day, quite conservative in a lot of views, and we're called the Sanctified Holiness Church, and so a lot of limitations in terms of your daily life, how you're living. And my dad, I saw him branching out and trying to expand what the church was, expanding the mindset of what church has to be, what a Christian had to be. And if you are a Christian, looking at the Bible historically, what did Jesus really look like? And what did the people in the Bible really look like? What was their genetic makeup, and where were they living? And so he took a lot of his research and made a lot of scholarly points to challenge us, the community. And I grew up in 53206 on 10th and Atkinson. That's where his church was for over 26 years. And so he was challenging the people around us. So I've been to churches, many churches in Milwaukee and across the country, where there's a white Jesus. And in the 80s, ours didn't have it. And not only that, but it was, before even my dad's church, there was Pamoja. And so he infused African culture, Black empowerment. And so you had people like Zakiya Courtney and Tony Courtney being members of our church, where we were bringing together people who are interested in Black empowerment, cooperative economics, and making sure that if I have it, you have it. And so that's how I saw him fighting. And my mother was just, right along with him, and her being in the classroom and being able to sneak in that Black history to her students. And we were a family of 6 kids, which means automatic choir, soprano, alto, tenor. My mom had me singing soprano a little bit longer than she should have, me being the youngest. One of the youngest. But, we sang Sweet Honey in the Rock. That's what we grew up singing around Milwaukee. We sang those songs. And so it was in me. It was just, the songs that I think about were either Black power songs or just empowerment songs, freedom, questioning the status quo and saying it's not good enough. Whatever you're giving us is not good enough if we aren't determining it for ourselves. And if I don't have someone along with me, and if my brother over here is suffering, then we're all suffering. That was my father's ministry. That was my mom's teaching. And now it's, I think that's become my theater purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I think about my own family, it sounds like we have quite a few things in common, all of us. Like, my family was also very involved, especially my grandparents and my great aunts and uncles, all members of the NAACP, but also all members of Black sororities and fraternities that were constantly doing things in the community quietly to help solve problems, staying in touch with having the right attorneys to help in situations where maybe people didn't have access to resources. And then I think about my grandmother who worked in the polls for something like 40 years. I mean, she didn't stop working at the polls until she was well into her late 60s, early 70s. If there was an election, she was there. And my dad, both my dad and my grandfather ran for city councilman in their town. So my family, I always laugh when people say, you don't talk about politics and you don't talk about religion. I was like, then don't come around me because that's all my family does. So it's so great to hear how your families were also involved in different ways, even if it was just behind the scenes and quietly. So tell me, what are you doing now? What have you been involved in recently? There's a lot going on in this country right now. There are a lot of conversations that are happening and even more that need to occur. So where are you dabbling?
I'll go first. When the pandemic started, going back, I've been performing since I was in high school, and I just was not just a performer, but did primarily performing, and then taught a little here and there. And then moved off to New York, came back home. And when I came back home, I had a fresh perspective on what I thought how I could benefit or influence the arts community in Milwaukee, or just make a change based on what I was seeing. And fast forward to feeling like my time was gone, or not gone, but it came to time to transition. We moved to New York last September, and then I came back to do a show in the beginning of March at Next Act. And I was excited to do the show. And within 1 week, everything shut down, everything, as we all know. And then my family, we all just came together. Quasi, our son, came home from school. Chiké and the girls came here, and we've been here since then. And we'll be staying throughout the summer. And so I thought that, okay, now that everything is kaput and I don't know what is next, we're just going to enjoy each other. And lo and behold, unfortunately, the death of George Floyd, I feel like it just woke all of us up, and definitely me. And it went suddenly from, I am trying to maintain my household and my sanity, to, oh my gosh, what are we going to do as a nation? What is happening? This is not good. And then you see what was happening in Minnesota, and I was so inspired by those protesters, and you just got this feeling of something has to happen. And it's been happening ever since. And it's been this rumbling. It's been this awakening. And I'd say within a week, it turned into, okay, and how is the theater, how is the arts community responding to this? Because we've been through this before with Mike Brown. Everyone had their chance during Black Lives Matter when they first started, with Mike Brown. So what are you doing? And it turned to that. Everyone's turning to Starbucks, to everyone. What are you saying? And with that, then it turned into a lot of conversations, lots of conversations with colleagues or artistic directors, arts leaders. And then you saw this coming together. And so I'd say for me, it's been a lot of trying to figure out where I fit in with all of these conversations, and trying to make sure that whatever it is, that it's long lasting for people in Milwaukee, and that this is not just a reaction and a phase, but that this is something that we can all look back on 20 years from now and be like, this was the moment that we made a change and we never went back. That's how I feel like I'm a part of right now.
Right. And I know that there are lots of grassroots organizations popping up everywhere. There are lots of social media groups that are also coming together to really challenge the questions that are out there and what we're going to do moving forward, because change does have to happen.
Yeah,
so how are we going to make it happen, and how can we, through the arts, push that envelope even more? Sheri, how about you? What are things you're dabbling in?
One of the ways I continue to connect with the community is through working with the youth. So in addition to teaching at the Peck School of the Arts, which we closed the season, I'll say it was bittersweet. We continued with our coursework, but instead of face-to-face, we learned how to communicate online. So I've learned, I'll just say I'm learning, the learning curve was really high, and I had an opportunity to try something new with these young people that is transferring into a project for this summer that I'm joining Malkia and Demonte Henning and Brent Hazelton, and that is, and other wonderful artists, and that is in the creation of the Milwaukee Black Theater Festival. And that's, yes, I am so excited, so hyped for that, and I'm so grateful to Malkia and Demonte and Brent for inviting me to join them on this really wonderful venture. And then there again, talking about working with young people. Just today, I started teaching a summer theater arts experience through Black Arts MKE, the whole month of July. And it's a continuation of something that started last year, where the young people are in charge of creating their own script and doing all the design work. And this year, though, instead of performing in front of an audience, it's going to be videotaped. And we will enter it in the Milwaukee Black Theater Festival as well, this original work that they're going to come up with, including writing the music with Brother Antoine Reynolds and choreography with Selena McKnight. So a dynamite team, and opportunity for 10 young people, small, instead of the 30 that we were anticipating, reduced to 10, and they're dynamite.
Yeah. Great, wonderful. Well, I know I've been doing little things like for people that are Facebook friends with me, I've started this education and learning thing where I'll post links to books or films or websites or things where people can go and really read and learn true history and true facts that I think are important to us, building bridges across communities to have these conversations happen and to promote movement forward without too many fights and arguments and that kind of thing. I mean, there's obviously going to be pushback that happens, but part of that I feel is because history books in America are not extremely accurate, and they've caused a lot of problems on a lot of levels. But I want to turn now, Chiké, and ask you, what about new projects? What kind of new art are you creating that helps address this?
Well, for me, I have been thinking for a long time, how can I use my voice to be a part of the movement, the Black community moving forward. So I decided that I've always been a film fan of film. So I decided I wanted to go in the film direction. I wanted to produce stories by us, for us, that can be enjoyed by everybody. But, camera, behind the camera, in front of the camera, lights, sound, all that stuff. I wanted to be part of building a production company that represented the Black community. And so I started, along with you, Christie, and Malkia, we've started We All Can Dunk Productions, which is a great thing because none of us can dunk. I used to be able to dunk, but those years and years ago, I could touch the rim. I still could touch the rim. But anyway, also I'm working on and also creating my own production company in conjunction with that. It's really important for me. We have a really good friend, Gavin Lawrence, who I used to bounce things off of all the time, and I say, this is, I'm sitting there complaining and doing, talking about our situation as Black people in the arts, especially Black people in film, and just Black people as a whole in the United States of America. And he would sit there and Gavin would listen to me like he usually does. And then he goes, okay, but what are you doing?
Yes.
And I would sit there like, okay, well, I'm not doing nothing right now, but you know, it's coming. So, so my journey, I guess now, is to create film, and I'm doing it small. I don't need to have $1 million sitting in the bank to create film.
Yes.
All I need is talented Black people around me, talented Black writers around me, and we're going to move forward. And hopefully, end goal for me is to be able to give opportunities, and hopefully be able to teach young Black people who want to go into this industry, not only give them the opportunity to express themselves and express their art, but also give them the power and the knowledge to say that they don't have to wait for somebody to say, hey, we think you're good enough. No, just start creating. And I want to give them that power to know that you could just start creating. You don't have to wait until you've gone through school to do things. There's a really good filmmaker on I'll say this and I'll shut up. There's a really good filmmaker on YouTube, and his name is he goes by D for Darius. And I watched a lot of his stuff, and he motivated me a lot. And he would just say, if you want to be a filmmaker, just start making film. You don't need a camera. That little phone that you carry around in your back pocket is your camera. Write a 2-page story and shoot it, and you're a filmmaker. So yes. I think all Black kids, all kids, but especially my kids, they need to know that. They need to know you learn by doing. I love OJT, on the job training. You learn the best. That's how I learn. I learn the best by doing. Instead, I was one of those students where if you put a book in front of me, I begin to doze off. But if you take me out there and you show me how to do it, that's what interests me, the process of doing things. So that's what I'm doing in my own small way. Besides speaking out, I write stuff that angers me. I post things on social media that when I'm angry and I feel like words need to be said, but something solid that somebody can point back and say, yes, he helped move. He was part of moving the culture forward, is the film company.
Yeah, that's great. I know we're getting close. We need to wrap up soon, but I just want to ask one last thing, and anybody can jump in at any time. I'm so thankful that Skylight is taking major steps to move us forward and to really allow these conversations to happen, not only through Skylight Social, but also putting together task force and committees to help them do what's right with programming and choices and repertoire selection. And so my last question is, do you think arts agencies are really doing enough to tell diverse stories for the BIPOC community?
Go ahead, Miss Sheri.
Sheri, speak first.
No is the short answer here.
I believe now that I'm going to say a window has opened, and it's more than just for one person. I had a long career, and I'm very grateful. But there are more voices. There are some young people coming up with like Chiké and Malkia and Demonte and Raven Dockery. I could start going on and on. These young people are bringing their training, their experience, their love, their passion, their stories. And not only are they bringing that, but they're bringing administrative and artistic skills that deserve an opportunity to be explored. So I'm hoping that there will be chairs at the table for them to sit in and contribute to the conversation when decisions are being made. So no, but it's on the way.
Yeah, I totally agree with Miss Sheri. We've seen, I mean, for a while, you can go back to the 60s and say that there have been, Black performers on Broadway. And since then, winning Tonys and or even Jeff Awards in Chicago and all across the country. But that's not enough. It's not enough. If we aren't seeing more Black or BIPOC artistic directors, board presidents, and not just millionaires. So I'm talking about those who are boots on the ground. Not if you're serving Milwaukee, for instance. Let's talk about Milwaukee. And your board members live in Mequon and Brookfield and Waukesha and Whitefish Bay, but your building is in Milwaukee. I don't care even if half of them are Black. You're not doing enough. That's not enough. We have to change that. The arts is not just for the elite giving their money. Sometimes it is about that the crowdsourcing or putting all of our little pennies together. So if you don't have a relationship with Keefe Avenue School or COA or that little storefront church on 11th and Atkinson or wherever, then you're not doing enough. And seeing Black people on stage at your theaters, it might be great, but then I have more questions. The more you say you're doing, then the more questions I have, because you're using tax dollars if you're getting NEA funds or Wisconsin Arts Board funds or UPAD funds. We're all giving our pennies to those organizations. And so you owe it to us to keep doing more. So then I'm going to ask, where are those artists from? If they're from Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, how are you pouring into the youth or those college students majoring in theater at Carthage College, at UW-Madison, at UW-Stevens Point, at Whitewater, where you have these strong programs? Are you pouring into them? And so that's my challenge to our arts organizations in Milwaukee and Wisconsin. Love us here in this city, not just abroad, but love us first. That's my challenge.
Yeah, and I think that in general, I think that's what should happen in every city and across the board. And so, again, I want to thank Michael and Skylight for even starting this opportunity to open up the table to discussion, to say what needs to be said, and also to introduce the world to a lot of artists that people don't know. It's like you said, Malkia. We need more Black stage directors, music directors, lighting designers, costume designers, and there are plenty out there who aren't known. So I'm excited about Michael and I working together and bringing more people into the forefront and spotlight of that, and then for them to talk about social justice issues. So thanks again, Michael and Skylight.
Thank you, Christie. We have a long way to go, I think theater in general does, to realize this in a better way. And it's unfortunate that George Floyd had to motivate these actions and these hopeful changes that will last. We've had lots of conversations with our family of artists of color who said, we don't want a Band-Aid, we want change. And I support that. I agree with that. And we have a lot of initiatives coming through at Skylight to help make that happen in terms of programming, in terms of putting together a group that can help us form some of those ideas. So Christie and Sheri are obviously a huge part of that. And Chiké, Malkia, welcome aboard. Love to have you as part of those conversations also. But we need your help, and we're here to make that change where we can with your support. And we're offering you a place to be part of the discussion. So thank you for letting us in, and we're happy to let you in. So.
Thank you. You couldn't ask for a better partner in Christie hosting this. She is, I don't know anyone who has more energy than her. I really don't. I don't. Maybe my 3-year-old niece. but she's a fighter, and I really love you, Christie, and Miss Sheri as well, who is Skylight royalty.
Yes.
And who took me under her wing in my first professional show in Milwaukee, which was at Skylight and The King and I. And Michael, welcome to Milwaukee. And thank you so much.
I just got here last September. It's a heck of a year to become an artistic director. But these two women are forces to be reckoned with. Christie and Sheri, I'm sure, Malkia, Chiké. Well, you're not a woman to be reckoned with, you're a man to be reckoned with, Chiké. But there is so much amazing talent in Milwaukee, and I know that's the lifeblood of this theater, and proud to have it be that. And the diverse artists in Milwaukee have blown me away, and I'm just so excited to get casting, get directing, and get them back on stage as soon as we can all do that safely. But for now, we'll meet like this. Thank you. We rely on people like you to help us get the word out, to help us make sure we're doing the right thing. So thank you for this, all of you. And Christie, thanks for coming up with this idea. We're thrilled to partner with you on it. And we'll see you around, all right? Stay safe, everyone. Stay sound. And we'll see you back at the theater as soon as we can. Thanks all.